Welcome guys to my channel. It's Ijoma here. In today's video I'm going to show you guys how I made this beautiful panel dress. This is the one that I made, so I'm going to show you how I made it. Now let's get to work. For this tutorial you will need a pattern paper, your scissors, your tape rule, you need your ruler and your marker. So first of all, I want to tell you guys that I will be working majorly on the down part. I mean from the knee length downwards. That's the main thing that I want to show you guys in this video. So the major measurement that we'll be needing is our knee circumference, and I'm going to show you guys how to derive your knee circumference. Since your hip circumference is known, you will derive your knee circumference from there. The hip that I'm using for this tutorial is 46 inches. So in order to derive your knee circumference, you are going to subtract 8 inches from your hip measurement. The reason why I said 8 inches is so that it will have the mermaid look shape, or the figure 8 like we normally call it. So what I'll do right now is to write my hip minus 8 or 6 inches. 6 inches is when you want it to be free, but for me I always subtract 8 because 8 gives it a more defined shape at the knee part. So 46 minus 8 is 38. So 38 is our hip knee circumference. At least we know our knee circumference right now. So the panels of these down parts is going to be 6. If you want 10 or more, but for this gown I want to make it 6 because I'm using a 6 years of fabric, so I'm trying to minimize the consumption of the fabric. So 6 pieces is what I'm going to make my panel, but feel free to explore to make it 10, 20, 4, 6, 5, any amount that you want. So in order to get the radius for each panel, we are not going to be doing our normal 6.28 or normal 3.142. So you will do 38 divided by 6. To get the radius, just calculate it this way: your knee circumference divided by the number of pieces of the panel, number of the pieces that you want your panel to be. Had it been you are making a 10 pieces panel, you would divide 38 by 10. So I'll go ahead and calculate that. 38 divided by 6, and it gave me 6.33. so this is our radius for each panel. But remember that I'll be adding 0.5 inch on both sides of the panel because I will be joining the 6 together, so I need to add allowance to each of them, the allowance that I will use to join these panels together. So 6.33 plus 0.5 inch, and that will give me 6.83. Then I'll just make it 6.9. So 6.9 is the major standard. Let me do a recap. First of all, derive your knee circumference and then divide it by the number of pieces that you want and add half an inch for seam allowance, and that's all. So the next thing that we want now is the length of the panel. Remember that you have not derived the length, you have derived the radius. We now want to derive the length. So in order to derive the length of the panel, you will just subtract from your shoulder to knee from your full length. The full length of the gown is 68. She's a very tall person. Then from her shoulder to her knee is 38. So what I did is to subtract 38 from 68. Shoulder to knee is off. What we need is from the knee to the down floor. So 68 minus your shoulder to your knee, and that is 30 inches plus 1 inch. Remember that we are going to join the panel to the main gown, and you're going to use half an inch to turn it with the lining. So the 1 inch that I added to the length is half an inch for joining to the main gown, and then half an inch for turning it with the lining. So I'm trying to fold my paper. I don't want to confuse you guys. I want to fold this pattern paper so that what I'm saying will be very clear. If you have any question, please feel free to drop it in the comment section, and make sure you like this video, and please subscribe so that you can get more tutorials from me. You can see more tutorials from me. So I folded my fabric, my pattern paper, sorry. Unlike a normal flay, you can't determine how full it will be, how wide the circle will be. But for the panel, you are everything is under your control. You can determine how wide you want it to be. So I'll mark my radius. Remember, my radius is 6.9. Then this pattern paper is on fold. 6.9 divided by 2 is 3.45. So I mark 3.45, and then I mark the length of my panel. The length of my panel is 31. So the wideness of the panel, I want to make it 24. So 24 divided by 2 is 12. I want each panel to be 24 inches wide. You can make your own to be 30 inches wide. You can make your own to be 10 inches. That's why I said that everything is under your control. It's not like the normal flea. So from the point where I marked my 12 inches, I'll connect it. I will draw a line to the point where I marked my 3.45. Your radius is 6.9, but remember you are cutting on fold. So when you fold, definitely you're going to divide the 6.9 by 2. So after that, you will come up from the point where you mark your 12 inches, you will come up by 3 inches and slant your panel this way. This will give it a very defined shape. So it's good you slant this way. So after slanting, I'll cut it out. I'll cut out what I have here. Guys, just feel free to manipulate. If you have more than 6 yards of fabric, feel free to make the wideness 30 or 40. That means each panel will be 14 inches. That is 20 on fold. So I've cut out my pattern paper. I added my 1-inch seam allowance to it too. That's why the length is 31. Normally it is 30, but I added 1 inch for seam allowance. That is 31. So I've cut out my pattern, and remember it is on fold. So you cut this thing 6 times, 6 pieces. If you want it to be 10, you cut 10 times. That's just it. So I've opened it up, and this is how it looks like. It will have this cone shape or triangular shape, whichever one you want to call it. So but the cone shape will give it a more defined shape. And that is it, guys. The next thing that I'll do now is to cut it on my fabric. I'll cut it out on my fabric, and I'll cut my fabric 6 times. I'll cut my fabric 6 times. I added 0.5 inch seam allowance to this on both sides, so I don't need to add any allowance on my fabric. So this is the fabric that I'll be using for the gown. So I'll fold. I'll cut it one in order to avoid mistake, but if you are a pro, you can. So I'll place my pattern paper. I've folded my fabric. I folded it out, and I'll place my pattern paper. The next thing that I will do is to cut. I'll cut this thing 6 times, and I'll cut my lining too. I'll cut my lining 6 times. Remember, guys, that I used I used a collar gum. If you want it to stand very well, I'll advise you to use a collar gum. Add the gum to your lining. Add the gum to your lining. You can add a collar gum to your lining and then add a normal hard gum or hard interface on your fabric. But if you want to use only a collar gum or a peplum gum, there's this stay that they call peplum stay. It stands very well. You can add it to your lining. The reason why I said I should add to your lining is to give your lining stability. We all know that lining can be so frustrating sometimes because they are so light, they can be hard to handle. So it's better you add your stay or your interface to your lining. It will make it very easy to turn. And if you want it to be too full, you can add boning round the hemline and around the floor length. You can add your regiling boning down there in order to achieve a very full look. So guys, I'll cut this thing. I'll cut it 6 times. So I'm done cutting my piece one, and don't forget to mark the the bad part or the wrong side, so that when you are turning it will be very easy for you to identify. So I'll go ahead and cut extra 5. So I'm cutting. So after turning your after adding your collar gum and after turning with your lining, you go ahead and overlock. Either you overlock or you can use a bias tape and finish it. So guys, that is it for my panel gown. You can make it to start from the waist or you can make it to start from the knee, whichever way you want it. So guys, thank you for your time, thank you for your support. Please do not forget to subscribe, click the red button and click on the bell button so that anytime that I upload a new video you will be notified. Thank you guys for your support. Thank you. Bye.